What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Lioness Lair. This is the Queen of the Prowl, Valerie Bordeaux. We're back from the bye. We're talking about the Detroit Lions versus the Dallas Cowboys game that we saw today. With me tonight is my amazing co-host, as always, Lionel of Douchebagia.
What's going on,
How
guys?
you doing tonight, girls? How you
I'm
doing
doing,
tonight?
I'm doing awesome. I needed that bye so badly. Got myself a fresh perspective. Kind of ignored Lions football for a week. Yeah, I mean, this was an ugly game, but we're an ugly team, and it wasn't as bad as it could have been. How was your bye week, Val?
My bye week was good, pretty well rested. We we won. I won as far as the Lions were concerned, and then I didn't win so much with with the way the Bears went down. But it is what it is.
They
So,
are the Bears, yes.
well, hey, Mark Malik, welcome and joining us. So let's just get into the offensive side of the ball. L- let's address that first. Um,
All right, let me pull up notes here. So before we start, I don't think he's here yet, but I am playing fantasy football with Micro Mike. And going into week 4, he and I were the only two undefeated teams left. And we knew we played each other week 5. Now, unfortunately, I lost week 4. But it didn't matter. We still had a bet going for week 5 when we played each other. And he kicked my ass. I lost, and as punishment, I am wearing this very fancy Lions Nation Unite shirt today. And I am going to declare Micro Mike the undisputed king of fantasy football. And ow, that hurt. However, it's very impressive. He is 6-0 and he's winning tonight, so he's probably going to be 7-0. I'm still second though. But congratulations, Micro Mike. You are the best at fantasy football. So, on to this horrible Lions team who is still winless on the road since December 6th of 2020. Last time we went on the road was in Chicago. It's the second game in a row. We have failed to score a touchdown. And we are now the worst team in the league by record. Because we came into the week and the Panthers, the Texans, and who am I missing? The Raiders. We were all the teams with one win. The Raiders won today. The Panthers won today. And the Texans lost, but they have the tie. So by record, it's official. We're the worst team in the league. So what'd you think of today's game, Val?
Oh, it was so beautiful, wasn't it? There was absolutely nothing happening on the offensive side of the ball whatsoever the entire game. If you want to catch up on the rest of the games, we're showing the box scores for today at the bottom of the screen. But oh, let's go. You know
If
what? A lot of
if
Lions fans today want to blame golf for this game. And I'm going to cut this guy a break because
you never
he,
cut off a break.
and I never do, but I'm going to cut him a break for this one. Even though we had those couple of interceptions, and all that stuff,
The
he's dealing
4 turnovers, he was directly
and four
responsible for
turnovers and
those.
four turnovers.
Uh-huh.
You know, um, you know, look, all he's really got pretty much left is the guy from the pick and save. So I mean, come on. I mean, really, what weapons does he really have? What I was more disappointed in is that Hawk did not show up. Reynolds kind of tried, um, kind of sort of tried. I mean, you know, uh, who else we got?
Raymond, man. I mean, when Amon Ra
Raymond
went
didn't.
out, Raymond stepped up. He was the number 1 receiver today. He was 5 for 6 for 75 yards. I mean, Amon
Yeah,
Ra had 1 reception and ended up in concussion protocol. 1. So yeah, I mean Raymond was his backup, and he came in, he did all right. Brock Wright showed up for what, the first time ever. He went 4 for 4 for 57 yards. Even Hawk, I know it didn't feel like he did a ton, but he went 4 for 5. He caught 4 out of the 5 targets that went his way, and he had 48 yards. No one else did much. I mean, Craig Reynolds, only 3 passes went his way, but he caught them all. Tom Kennedy, 3 passes went his way. He caught 2 of the 3. Other than that, that was about it. I think Jamal Williams had a pass go his way, maybe. And Amon-Ra had the 1. And I think that was our entire receiving day. Yeah, it was rough.
Well, Jamal Williams did do quite a few good runs throughout the game. So he did what he had to do. He could have showed up a little bit better, but to be honest, the guys weren't really pulling any rabbits out of their ass at all the entire game.
Listen, I love me some Jamal Williams, and this is certainly not his fault. But his 15 carries for 79, 75, 70 whatever yards that he got today doesn't make up for his 2 fumbles. And I know the first fumble, Brock Wright fell on it, so it wasn't a turnover. The second one was on the goal line, and can't do that, man. Not that this loss was his fault. It certainly wasn't all on him. But yeah, this wasn't his best game.
No, it wasn't his best, but he wasn't the worst to kind of stand out in the whole thing at all. So, I mean, it is what it is. It just is what it is. And, I don't think there's really any help, but hey, we got to see the new kicker today. At least he did something on this, and he did something on this team. Leave it to the Bears throwaways to actually come and do something with this team. But, I'm not going to blame Goff, even though he did terrible today. I know a lot of fans will probably want to blame him, but to be honest,
all right, no, I haven't blamed Goff this whole time because he is the kind of guy who you can win with. You don't necessarily win because of, but you can win with him. But what you can't have a quarterback like this do is lose the game for you. Goff lost the game for us today. Today was on Goff. I mean, if you're not going to put it on Goff and you're not going to put anything on Jamal Williams, the other guy who fumbled the ball away, who's to blame for this game?
Well, I'm not necessarily going to do that. I'm not going to say that because if you've noticed in the first half of the game, they were doing the run game. They were doing really well, even though they didn't score anything. But they were still getting the ball down the field. And then when they came out at the half, they decided to switch the scheme and go back to trying to make Goff a deep pass guy, which he's not. And right away, that completely failed and threw everything out of the window. And on top, and then it slid into referee penalty hell, later on, which once that happened, I think they gave up at that point.
Well, okay, so when it comes to switching up the scheme, this is something I tracked today because these numbers don't usually come out till Monday or Tuesday, and I wanted them for tonight. So in the first quarter, we had 5 pass plays, 7 runs. In the second quarter, it was 5 pass plays, 7 runs. In the third quarter, it was 6 passes, 7 runs. And in the fourth quarter, it was 7 passes, 5 runs. So the fourth quarter was the only quarter in which we passed it more than we ran it. But we were also playing from behind at that point. And you have to do that to try to control the clock and leave yourself enough time. So, and
not with the way the score was. No, you don't. The score, it wasn't like the score was out of their control.
No, but we were playing from behind, and once they scored the first touchdown,
but you were only playing behind by 3 at that for the most of it until those touchdowns happened towards the fourth quarter.
Right. So it was 10-6 going into the fourth quarter, and then let me see, when was it that they scored the first touchdown?
It was late in the third, I'm pretty sure.
Well, we went into the fourth 10-6. So we were
okay. So they were both in the fourth. Okay, they were both in the fourth. Yeah, they gave up in the fourth, but they started out going nuts with trying to make in the pass. And when they're only 3 points behind, that don't make no sense. Come on now, play your run game. Don't be playing when has that worked?
Okay, they tried that. Okay, because they came into the fourth quarter and they gave it to Jamal. And you know what? He converted a third down. He got a first down when it was third down. And then we had that big catch to right down at the goal line. Remember the one that everybody wanted the refs to review and they didn't because he was so close to the goal line?
Mm-hmm.
Then Jamal Williams fumbled on the goal line. So we were using the run game until it bit us in the ass. And then after that happened, so we turned the ball over. Then they punt. The very next drive, Goff is intercepted. It had just been a beautiful pass to Brock Wright. He had just gotten a first down. And then Goff was intercepted. And then after that, they scored a touchdown. Goff had that horrible, I know they're calling it a strip sack, but it wasn't even a sack. They literally just like plucked the ball out of his hands. It was so bizarre looking. Yeah, and then they immediately scored again. And then he immediately fumbled again. I mean, it was a really sort of bizarre turn of events. And they didn't really get away from the run game until Jamal frickin' fumbled on the goal line. And then after that, and they scored the touchdown, now it was 17-6. And it's like, okay, now we have to throw the ball. It's the middle of the fourth quarter and we have to throw the ball. So I don't know. I get it.
I don't blame it for the end part, but I do blame it for doing it in the third. And
they didn't do it in the third.
Yeah, they did.
Not by the numbers.
They started out with it. They started out with it right in the third quarter. Let me look at my notes real quick because I want to make sure that I'm right on this one. Right at the third quarter. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. I was on the right page. Okay, so he threw an interception the very first drive.
Yeah, that was the one too where I was thinking of you because it was the first deep ball he had thrown all day. And I even put in my notes, oh, Goff's first attempt at a deep ball and it's an interception. Val's going to love it. But even here in the third quarter, I mean, there were 6 pass plays to 7 runs. Like, there was still an even balance. It's not like all of a sudden they were getting away from the run. They had just as many run plays in the third quarter as they did the first and second. So, I mean, it was pretty balanced. And you couldn't rely on anybody. Your quarterback was throwing interceptions and fumbling the ball away, and your running back was fumbling the ball. What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Weird day.
So in the stats, it was late in the third when the stat came out, but Goff had only 200 yards for the entire game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had 220 yards.
And he was still 0-5 on third downs.
It was go 0-5 on third down. Like we converted 3 out of 9 third downs today.
That wasn't according to what was the stats in the game, but I could be wrong. But the announcers could be wrong. That's the stats I got from the announcers. They were 0-5 towards the middle of the game.
So here's what we did on third down today. In the first quarter, we punted on third down and then went incomplete, kicked a field goal. Second quarter, Williams ran for the first down, but there was a holding penalty on Evan Brown. Oh, yeah, he didn't have a great day. 3rd and 14, Craig Reynolds, complete, no gain. If you're at 3rd and 14, why the hell isn't Goff at least getting it past the line of scrimmage? I hate that call, throwing it short of the sticks on 3rd and long. That makes no sense.
In the first, Brock Wright had a good catch. He recovered the fumble ball. Reynolds got burnt.
And then we had a completion to Hawk, but that got negated by a holding penalty. So we actually had 2 third down conversions. Both of them got negated by penalties. We didn't actually convert on third down until about a minute to go in the third quarter. It was a 3rd and 14, a complete pass to Raymond. And then just after that, at the beginning of the fourth quarter, about 14-20, it was 3rd and 2. Jamal Williams ran for 20 yards. After that, on third down, it was intercepted. And then we had a false start. Oh, we converted a 3rd and 12, complete for 19 yards with a minute 21 to go in the fourth. Fantastic. That did us a lot of good. Glad we converted on our last drive.
Another great stat where that came up in the first quarter was when Bagley had hit that field goal.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time there were points scored in 103 plays and 17 drives.
Holy crap. That sounds really bad. That is really bad.
That is, I'm telling you, just a stat to make all sets there. You know,
Yeah. There were no fourth down attempts today, probably because I don't think like we were ever closer than 4th and 7 when we actually made it to fourth down. But yeah, Badgley knocked through a 40-yarder and a 50 something, like a 52. Good on him. He hit both the field goals. Those were our only points of the day. See how important a
pretty
kicker
much.
is, Brad Holmes?
Yeah.
See how important this position is? Good.
Well, especially when you don't have any other talent on your team, it is incredibly important. But yeah, I mean, as far as Goff's performance, he did have one really great shining moment in this game for me, where he had made a throw under pressure to Reynolds
Mm-hmm.
and drew a roughing the passer penalty. So at the same time, so for me, that was a really good play for him, and they, you know, but then the refs take away the first down with that holding call on Williams right after that. So it's like,
All right, let's break this down a little bit. The good, the bad, and the ugly of this game. Give me something good that came out of it. What was the good out of this game?
I'm going to say that there were a lot more good things that I saw on the defense, which I can get to them when we get to the defensive side of the ball. The offense was ugly, just flat. And as far as good, I think that it was. I honestly could say that Ben Johnson took over the play calling more than Dan Campbell did. There wasn't really any obvious Dan Campbell blow it moves, other than maybe questioning some challenge calls, perhaps. But there isn't really a whole lot to write to your mama about in this game. There just
Yeah,
really
I mean,
isn't.
I'll agree with you on the D. I thought they were playing inspired ball up until the fourth quarter when they were exhausted because they were on the field all the time. I mean, Dallas went 3-and-out the first 2 drives in a row. They held them. We only let Dallas convert 3 out of 9 third downs, which is the same as us. We also converted 3 out of 9. But the fact that our defense held them, to 3, I thought was pretty good. Hutch had 2 sacks. Most importantly, both of them were on third down. Kirby Joseph flipped Noah Brown, causing a fumble. That was fun. That was great. We haven't seen a turnover like that in a while. And Okuda was just everywhere. I don't know what the dude was doing. It was like every time I looked up and saw the ball, here comes number 1. I mean, he was within a couple of yards of the ball every time I looked up. It was impressive.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows my opinion about Mr. Okuda, but I gotta give him props for this game. He had a pretty flawless game as far as I saw. There wasn't anything that I could say, ooh, because before he'd gotten burnt and all of that stuff, but he did a really good job today. Kirby Joseph, he showed up on quite a few plays, looking lit. And I've not been much of a fan of him, and everybody knows why. But they did their job on defense. Surprisingly to me, what surprised me today was it was the first. Here's where the props I'm going to give to the defense. It was the first game I have seen this season where I didn't see blind ballerinas in the backfield. Can we say an amen and a hallelujah and a glory and to all on that one? Because it has been, they looked so confused. But there were guys, even Elliott stepped up, and they were all stepping up to make a difference. So something must have happened during the bye week to light a fire under their rear ends, so to get them going. And that's exactly what we want to see. When your linebacker situation, Anzalone, my God, baby one had good play this game, and he just can we just send him to wherever he came from, please? Because I can't deal with the man no more. He had one great tackle that I noticed, But other than that, where that dude? Bye. Just go home. Go
Yeah.
home.
Well, he had 4 tackles, 3 assists. He was also credited with half a sack. One of like Hutch technically was credited with 1.5 sacks instead of 2 because one of those Anzalone was there. I don't know. I thought he showed his athleticism a little bit today. I saw him running some people down. I also saw him missing some tackles, but that's kind of par for the course. He does that. I mean, I think he was number 1 in missed tackles last year, so that's part of his game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I mean, right in my notes. I mean, they did a really great first half, but right in my notes, right in the for the start of the third, I said the defense can't stop anybody. You know, so but at all, they were not able to stop. Now, did they hold them from points? You know, but they weren't stopping them. You know, down the field, they were better off like towards the red zone, but that they were you could tell that they were gassing out in the third. It looked like a SOL Lions third quarter.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the third quarter wasn't. So the third quarter started off for us with that Goff interception. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, then we had the Zeke touchdown, and that, by the way, what led to that was a Jerry Jacobs penalty that allowed them to convert and kept their drive alive. Then of course we punted, but then they had that big kick return for 52 yards, and they were across midfield, and Dak was sacked by Hutch on third down, and they had to punt. We stopped the drive. Third down was, or the third quarter wasn't horrible. I really didn't feel like it fell apart until the fourth quarter.
It really fell apart in the fourth, but the signs were there. The signs
Yeah.
were there that they had that they were in trouble because I noticed it right off the bat. That the signs were just there. That like
Yeah.
this, there for me. When I saw them come back, I did not see even on both sides of the ball. I did not see the fire and passion out of the plays that I saw in the first half.
I mean, I understand what you mean. I think it's hard to go in and play on the road. It's really hard to go into certain stadiums. This is certainly one of them. And right after you throw an interception and then the other team scores a touchdown, yeah, I think that's going to take the wind out of your sails a little bit. And then obviously you want to get momentum back on your side, and hopefully you can kind of turn it around. They were never able to do that. It was just mistake after mistake after mistake. So things kept compounding at that point, and I don't think they ever sort of got it back.
Yeah, it just ended up, another guy that I watched to blow it tonight was Decker. Like
Yeah, I
he
mean,
did not have a good game. He had the holding call. He had the missed tackles. He got burnt at the end. Um, Flat out burnt. He got humiliated when the Cowboys decided to say, "Let's just ram this game down their throats."
right.
So
I'm trying to see his turnovers, or I mean his penalties, because I did actually mark them. I'm
the only
just
one that I know of is his holding one.
He had a holding and a false start.
Oh, he
Yeah,
did
I
have a
mean,
false start too. Yeah.
so and I know Goff got sacked a bit. The thing is, and on at least 2 of those occasions, those were coverage sacks because he was standing in a clean pocket forever, just looking for someone to throw to. So I mean, those weren't on the line. Yeah, I know the broadcast made a big deal about that one sack Dan Skipper let through. One of his other sacks, it was actually, I'm pretty sure Jamal Williams was supposed to be blocking and just got beat around the edge, and Goff went down. And we know actually that Goff struggles to hold on to the ball. He doesn't know how to take a sack well. Like, instead of stepping up and grabbing the ball and falling on it and really being secure, he tends to back up another 5 to 7 yards and kind of has the ball in front of his body, and he's really susceptible to fumbles when he gets sacked. And we definitely saw him get burned on that today.
For me, there was also a controversial moment in this game. Who was it that got suplexed? Was it
What?
Jameson?
I don't know what that means.
There was somebody that got suplex. They got picked up and thrown down.
Oh, right. I know what you're talking about.
I believe it was Jameson, but I'm not sure. But anyway, but that call there was no call on that when a few years ago, Ashawn Robinson got a penalty for that exact same move on Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's a rule change thing. I mean, unless you are slamming down the quarterback, I'm not sure how often that's called.
To pick up a guy and suplex him.
We saw Malcolm Rodriguez do it to who? Jason Kelsey or something this year. We've seen it happen, and it doesn't get called. Now, this was a really obvious one, and I think it was on a runner, maybe on Craig Reynolds. Yeah, it's not. They weren't calling a lot of roughing stuff or unsportsmanlike.
They were calling a lot of ticky-tack holding. There was a lot of ticky-tack holding calls for me.
Yeah, but it was
especially when no, it got really ridiculous there for a little bit in the third. To the point that I was like in the chat scope using the flag on the play with the refs with 5 million flags all over the place. It was getting ridiculous, and some of those calls were just so ticky-tack when you were watching a lot of the holding that had been going on that wasn't called.
Yeah, I really think that's just a matter of them not having eyes everywhere. I mean, we kind of talked about this a couple of weeks ago. They don't see everything. And then once you get called for something, it sort of draws their attention to you, and you better not mess up. That's what happened to Amani Oruwariye that one week where he had the 6 penalties. He was just drawing their attention, and after that, they were watching him like a hawk every time. Somebody's getting away with something on every play. There's just not enough.
Dallas was getting away with a lot on Hutch and a lot on the other guys. That was a lot more visible, noticeable, and clear-cut just right there than some of the calls that to me were like, how did you even notice that? You know what I'm saying? It was so minor. It was like the guy's hand was just barely there. Now, come on. If you can see that, but you couldn't see a blatant, there's a question here. But it is what it is. I think that overall, the reffing was called kind of fairly, but still, that can when you've got that much going on in that short of a period of time, it really messes momentum wise in the game for both teams, because both teams were kind of getting hit with nonsense back and forth.
Yeah, I know there was a period in the second quarter where Dallas was actually just getting called over and over and over, and you could see the visible frustration in the crowd. And it's not that they weren't penalties, because the second quarter, I think we got called. I know we had 2 offensive calls. We had a holding and a delay of game. I think we had a defensive or an illegal contact on the defense, but they went like false start. Then the next drive, roughing the passer. Then the next drive, they had a false start. And then on the same one, they had an illegal block in the back. And it was just like every single drive, they were getting flagged for something. I don't know. The refs seemed to ease off a little bit. Honestly, I just think the refs suck at their jobs. There aren't enough of them to see everything that's going on. I think they're human and they're doing the best they can. And I think they're just bad at what they do. And I don't think there's anyone on the planet who could get out there and do it any better. Unless you have an entire team. And this is what New York is supposed to do, right? They're supposed to have an entire team in the sky sort of watching the whole field, picking up crap that's missed. They don't do that shit. So I didn't think any of the bad calls really went against us. I didn't think it was unfair. And frankly, as a Lions fan, man, we got to overcome this kind of stuff. Good teams can overcome bad officiating. And we're not a good team, so we can't overcome it, and we complain about it every week. But I don't know. Yeah. I'm kind of over it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it really made that huge of an impact on the team, but it was a such a mixed mess of all kinds of things going on at once.
Yeah.
And it kind of fell apart after Dan Campbell came back from the half sounding like he was Hulk Hogan on the mic. But I don't know what that interview was, but brother, get your voice, stop talking like this, okay? I don't know if
He
he's sick.
looked huge too because whoever was interviewing him, Danielle Taylor, whatever her name is, she's so short. He looked like a giant. That was an entertaining interview.
It was entertaining because I heard it, and then I heard the announcers making fun of it because it was the exact same thing I was thinking. Brother, we're gonna bring everything at him, brother. And it was like, really, come on now, that was funny as hell. I mean, what happened to your voice, Dan? Did you get a Deuce Staley stash or what?
Yeah.
Oh, that was probably the most entertaining moment of the entire game.
No. The most entertaining moment of the game was when the head official was announcing a call to the stadium, and Jamal Williams hit him in the head with a football. He tried to throw him the ball, and the guy wasn't looking, and he hit him right in the head. And then even the ref kind of smiled. He knew he didn't do it on purpose, and he didn't get flagged for it or anything. But yeah, that was pretty great.
Can we give Williams a game ball for that moment, that NFL moment for yeah, it's always good to see the refs get smacked in the side of the head.
Yeah, maybe
that's what led to all of those weird calls because he had a concussion on the field. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. I think he might have gotten a concussion, and and they were calling all kinds of weird things because he couldn't see straight.
Okay, so here's my problem with this game. My problem is the way the fourth quarter felt. It was the last thing anybody saw, and it pissed a bunch of people off. And I haven't listened to any post game stuff yet, and I'm not on social media, but I'm sure there are fans freaking out about 10 different things. And it was a really close game. And I know it doesn't seem that way. And I know the last thing everyone was left with, I mean, the Lions finished their offensive playing on a fumble. But I just want to throw out some numbers to compare the two offenses today. So the Lions had 312 yards of total offense. Dallas had 330. We had 195 air yards. Dallas had 191. We had 117 yards on the ground. Dallas had 139. Both teams averaged 5.6 yards per play. We had 18 first downs. Dallas had 21. Both teams went 3 for 9 on third down conversions. We threw it 23 times and rushed it 26 times. Dallas threw it 29 times and rushed it 26 times. And if anyone's looking at the box score, my numbers are different than theirs. I don't count the plays that ended in fumbles and sacks as passing plays, but the box score does. So that's why my numbers are different. Neither team had any fourth down attempt. Penalties were just about the same. We had 9 penalties. They had 7. 5 of ours were on offense, 4 were on defense, 4 of theirs were on offense, 3 were on defense. I mean, it was actually a really close game. Akuda had more tackles than, I'm trying to think who their top tackler was. DeMarcus Lawrence, maybe? I didn't even look at their box score on defense. But the game wasn't as lopsided as the score indicates. How they played in the fourth quarter hopefully is not indicative of what this team is, because they hung in there with a really, really good Dallas team, by the way. Coming into this game, I didn't think we had a chance. And listen, to be fair, I was right. We didn't have a chance. Dallas is a much better team. But we came in and we were 32nd in passing DVOA and rushing DVOA on defense. Dallas, their defense was so good. They came in 3rd in defensive passing DVOA and 17th in rushing. We just couldn't compare with them. It wasn't a good matchup. They are a better team than us. So I don't know. Should I be more disappointed? Because I'm not disappointed.
I'm not actually disappointed because even though they've done a little bit better, but you've got to also take into consideration that a lot of weaponry and a lot of things that the Lions could have had is sitting on the bench right now.
You're talking
So
about
for
offensively.
offensively, well, you've got a lot of people in the pain train room, with injuries.
Yep.
So that's what I'm talking about. So if it in all get up, you're looking at a team that's 1-4 matched up against a team that was 4-2 at the start of this, and they with a lot less weaponry and still was able to match up pretty evenly across the board for the most part till the very end.
Yeah, I didn't know how this was going to look with Dak coming back, right? Because he went out in the middle of the first game of the season. He didn't look particularly good in that game. It almost seemed like they were talking about him being out 6 to 8 weeks, and this is 6 weeks, and he's back. So I didn't know if maybe they rushed him back early. He seemed like he needed to shake off a little rust the first 3 quarters of that game. He certainly played better near the end. But I didn't know what to make of this game. I didn't even, like, all the stats I look at to sort of preview a game, I didn't even have those on Dak because you have to have at least 155 snaps in order to have the numbers. So how they looked with Cooper Rush, I didn't think was exactly how they were going to look with Dak. Really, they didn't do a lot differently because when Dak was under center, or when Dak was their starter, they actually put Cooper Rush under center on first and second down like 10% more than they ever did Dak. And they count on Dak to play a lot of hero ball. Cooper Rush can't do that. That's not the kind of quarterback he is. That's not what you're asking of him. I mean, that's why you pay Dak $40 million a year. And I was almost hoping from watching them the past few weeks that Kellen Moore would not screw with their game plan. Because I want to see good football. Like, I want to see what this offense looks like with a healthy Dak. It's exciting. And, I actually, kudos to Kellen Moore for not totally screwing up the scheme that they've been operating under with Cooper Rush. They rushed the ball almost as much as they passed it. I don't think not once did Dak have to play hero ball. I think he had like 2 times where he was in trouble and he threw it deep and he hit home.
Dak was sacked a couple of times.
He did get sacked a couple times. Yeah, I don't know. I was not so disappointed with the Lions in this game. I don't know what Lions fan had this game circled on their calendar as a win. Like, I don't know any.
Before coming with the way that they were prior to the bye start, there was such a disappointment at how the season had been going that I think that even though that it was quite a potential for them to have the loss today, that there was a hope that they would be able to come out of the bye and show something impressive, like you've rested up, you've regrouped, you've restored your roar again, and we kind of sort of saw that in some ways, but they looked gassed at what they did. Now, can we blame that on no practices during the entire bye week? Do you think there should have been a little bit more work done in that direction? I don't know.
I'm sure they practiced all week like a normal week, though. Maybe the week before not, but yeah, I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, I sort of had the impression coming into this game that it was a must win only to the fans. I don't think the front office and the coaching staff thinks any differently because they didn't win this game. I'm sure they're telling all their players they can win any game, but deep down, I think they probably have this one circled as a potential loss too. So I do think it mattered to the fans. I'm sure people are going to be screaming their heads off, but I'm not sure that it matters. And I actually, in the bye, I kind of wanted to talk to you. I wish we should have gotten on a little earlier. I wanted to talk to you about this. Because in the bye, I ignored Lions football for 2 weeks. And I really thought about what the heck was going on. And I wondered if there was a disconnect between Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. And one of the interviews Dan talked about, he was asked about Sheila. Was she disappointed? Had he talked to her? And yeah, he said he talked to her. Of course, she was disappointed, but she and Dan and Brad are all on the same page. What it looked like was they had this plan, and we've talked about this, a 4 to 5 year plan, sort of a long term plan. And Brad is drafting for this plan. And in theory, Dan and Sheila agreed to this. And now that they're not winning games and the frustration is hitting for the players and the coaches and the fan base and everybody, I wonder if they're not as on board with being so patient. You know, because they were really willing to let Brad do what he wanted with the draft and not take any big names in free agency, not spend a lot of money, sort of, you know, take injured players earlier in the draft and then not play them and wait for a while. I'm wondering if there was a little frustration for Dan that he doesn't have the personnel in place to do what he wants to do because of Brad's vision. What do you think?
I think for Dan Campbell, the frustration is more of he's a very competitive mindset guy. You know, he everything within him is built on pride, right? And when you have the situation going on like he has going on, where he there's not enough money to have the talent there. You've got the guys that do have some talent getting injured early, and then you're losing these games. I think it's more of a frustration within him, not for feeling bad for the guys to be in his own teammates being in that position, being having been a player on the field in that type of scenario before. He knows
Yeah.
he was on the 0-16 team. Okay, so I think that he's having flashbacks from that season, yeah, a little bit, and it's kind of showing up in his face a little bit. Do I think that he's got some frustration with Holmes? I don't know. I don't believe it. I think for him, it's more of he's built into the game and he wants to see the guys succeed, and he's that head cheerleader, HC. Anyway, for the guys. So, I think that's more where that's coming now. But now Sheila, I think somebody's going to be getting a whiff of some white diamonds pretty soon. Because there's only so much she's going to be able to take of it. But see, the thing is, though, is I don't think that you're going to see a whole lot of her pulling up at somebody's house quite yet, because they're not in a position yet to do anything of any significance. They don't really have the cap space quite yet. They don't have they have a lot of issues that they're kind of sweeping away from the old regime with Howdy Doody and his pet pal, big fat Patricia. Okay. Yeah. So I
No,
think
I know what you mean.
I think
Yeah.
I think you're not going to see Sheila going gangster until after next year, when there's actually moves that can be made that are significant enough to make it a significant impact. Right now, they can't really do anything, so the frustration's hitting because they're in that position. But if you get past this halfway point in the 6-year contract and things are still looking this ugly, I think Sheila gonna roll up and Brad Holmes is gonna get a whiff of some white diamonds real
Yeah.
quick.
I agree with you on the halfway point. I do think Sheila is smart enough and patient enough and has seen enough of this sort of rebuilding slash retooling within the Lions organization to give it 3 years. Like, even if this year, I asked a question on the Prowl lunch show before the season started. You guys did a free for all Friday and answered questions. And I said, if we go 3-14 this year, if we only win 3 games, should Dan Campbell be on the hot seat? And sort of the unanimous answer was yes. And I said yes, I thought yes too. And now that it's looking like that's an actual possibility, I think you gotta give them 3 years. I really do. I don't think you start rolling heads 2 years in, especially as decimated as they were to come in. And you're right. It's not like we have the cap space and the money to do a lot. Now we will going
Mm-hmm.
into the next off season. But yeah, we don't right now. And the personnel they have, I know that they're not able to do exactly what they want to do, but as we saw today, the defense can actually play well
Yeah,
sometimes.
they're still in that process. So I just want to give a shout out to some of the new people that are on here. I see Grandizer and Paul Giroux. Hi. And then Stephen Forrest and Camping in the Forest. Camping in the Forest says this is way more composed than other discussions on the Lions. Oh, okay. We try to keep it as neutral as possible. But so but I, I forgot where I was going now that I said that. But it yeah, there's just not any room right now. Even with the personnel, there's just not enough room to do anything quite yet. I think that there's gonna the offense and the defense haven't even had enough time yet. That's where I'm going. The offense and the defense really haven't had time enough to gel with what they're doing quite yet. They're not, you're seeing this seesaw action. Okay, so we're gonna get the offense right this week, and or then we're gonna get the defense right this week, and and they're still doing the balance scales with a whole bunch of jigsaw pieces that are all over the place. They
That for me is one of the biggest things because when you think about the process of building a team, you're thinking about the core pieces that you need to get in there. And guess what? We actually have, I can name a handful on each side of the ball that are sort of young core players that hopefully are still here 10 years from now. But there's a bunch of guys playing around them on these 1 year deals. They might not be on the team next year. In fact, it's unlikely they're going to be. So you need to replace them with other people who you think are going to be long-term pieces. And then once you've done that, it's very, very fragile if you don't have any depth because you're always going to have to deal with injuries. So, I mean, let's say we fill in more of the pieces next year, and then it's still one more offseason and free agency and draft to get depth. Yeah, I think we're still a good 2 years away. And I'm willing to be patient through these kinds of growing pains. I remember prior to the beginning of week one, I said, I think this season's going to be a lot of trial and error. And I think the error part of it's going to be really frustrating. And I think we've seen a lot of that. It's exactly what's happened. They're trying things. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. They try something else. And hey, they tried something new this week and defensively it worked.
do you think that they might? Do you think that they might have had a plan to tank from the start for the draft picks?
No, I don't. The reason you just said, given that this entire coaching staff is a bunch of ex-players, the competitiveness, the fire, I think what you said is exactly right. They know how disheartening it is to just endure loss after loss after loss. They know it's wearing on these guys. And I think you're right. I think that's where the frustration amongst the coaching staff's coming from. Because you saw it on the
Mm-hmm.
broadcast today. Did you see them panning to the Lions
Mm-hmm.
sideline?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone just looked like they just had their hearts broken or something. I mean, they
But
all looked
that's my
so
thing,
dejected.
though. That what scares me is that they look lionized.
I agree, but temporarily, I don't think that's going to carry
I
over.
hope that it's not a permanent lionization. But history says that when you see it on the face, the writing's on the wall.
No, I think there was frustration, especially with the defense and the offense for the defense. Because the defense has struggled all year. It's been a national storyline because they've been historically bad, like hilariously bad.
My only
They played really
problem,
well today, and the offense didn't carry its weight.
yeah, sure. My only problem moving forward in their plan is Brad Holmes could have done a lot better in this past draft, and he did not address the defense like I think he should have. Now he went and got a bunch of guys that either were injured guys that can't play, that wide receiver that we haven't seen quite yet, really. Uh, you know, Okay. You're building for the future. Okay. Here's the thing. You've got a bunch of guys on the one year contracts that are not doing well. So this year you've got to address all your scenarios in free agency and the draft. So if you look at it, you need to be able to address all your defense in the free agency because you're probably going to go your offense in the draft, dealing with your quarterbacks, your weaponry, your wide receivers, and filling in a lot of holes. So the problem here is they're coming into a scenario where they're going to have a lot more money to play with. They've got a lot more capital to play with the 1-year contract guys for trade options, things like that, to be able to grab a whole thing. But the problem is there's other guys in the NFC North right now that are coming into even bigger paychecks, grabbing some of that talent that might be that they may be able to steal that talent that the Lions are going to be able to do in the build. That's a concern for me.
Yeah, I'm more concerned with free agency than the draft. And they've said from the beginning they want to build through the draft. They want to take these young guys and sort of mold them as part of this team. And free agency, they're only going to be able to do one or two big splashy things. Because Detroit's not exactly a premier destination. Everyone's not jumping over each other trying to come play here. So you're going to have to really provide a strong incentive for a great player to come here, which is why
I don't think they're going to make any time. They're not going to make any splashy moves, in my opinion, in the free agency. They're going to build your depth pieces there.
Honestly, I'd be good with that. I mean, we need depth right down to the O-line.
You know what I'm saying?
Need depth
that is
everywhere.
In just looking at some of the things that Brad Holmes has said, where he doesn't really value the linebacker that much, he does all of this stuff. Just nonsense. It's just, I just want to smack a brother for. But because when you're an analytical like mine, like me, and you want to call yourself, you're being called Mr. Analytics. It's bothersome. But so I think that some of those depth pieces in the linebacker, the safeties, those pieces are going to all be part of this free agency, whereas the big splash will be towards the draft offensive side of the ball.
You think wait a minute, what? You think the draft will make a splash on the offensive side?
No, the draft is going to make a splash on the offensive side, and the defense will be addressed by free agency.
Oh, I mean, I don't think we're going to go no offense in the draft, but no, I think it's going to be a super defensive heavy draft. I mean, I just...
That would be dumb because there's not that much going on this way with the defense. You already had a defensive smorgasbord. You're not going to get that 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And if they choose to do that now, that doesn't make any sense. They need a quarterback backup. They need, they're going to need some help surrounding it in the offensive. So, yeah. They're going to pay. It'll be balanced half and half, but I think that the splash guys are going to come from the draft.
Besides quarterback, what other offensive position are you thinking we should use with a draft pick? Because I mean, like what I want for offense is offensive line depth. But to me, that's something you can pick up relatively cheap in free agency. I don't think Hawkinson's going to make it another year. Maybe not, but we just drafted the freaking tight end. I mean, he's just getting healthy, and the whole point was to sort of groom him, right?
Good luck with that.
Ends. Yeah, listen, I have no idea what he's going to be at. It takes a couple of years to know, what a draft pick's going to be, and we haven't seen any of them. We have no idea what James Mitchell's.
I think that they're pretty well established and set wide receiver wise. I think that's pretty strong, but so maybe running back depth, maybe some offensive line help a little bit.
that though that the splashes are going to be that way. There's not going to be a defensive splash. I don't believe.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this year, one of the people I was hoping we'd pick up in free agency was Marcus Williams, safety Marcus Williams, because he was with the Saints. He had that sort of Saints connection with them, and I think he ended up going to the Ravens. But yeah, if you could get a guy like that for like kind of the shark deal, 10 million, I'd take something like that. I mean that we need that kind of help. We need kind of veteran help, especially in the second two levels of the defense there, the back seven. I don't know. I hope they do something.
But
But I'm not worried
I
about
can
the
see
draft yet.
I can see Brad Holmes shooting for all the linebacker safety scenarios, cornerbacks situation.
Well, he
And
better
free.
get us another linebacker because you know full well he's not going to draft us one. At least not before day 3.
Yeah, and anything after day 3 is just just forget it.
Except Rodrigo, who is just that is the exception to the rule.
I mean, you can't. It's not that it's not possible because that's Rodrigo was drafted where Rodrigo needed to be drafted at. Okay, he was where he was supposed to be. That's a good round to pick up a linebacker. That is a very good round for that.
The 6th round? All right.
Yeah, and you got to steal. Well, yeah, anywhere between the 4th and 6th is it. Well, no, yeah,
So you and Brad Holmes will get along because yes, he refuses to take a linebacker before the 4th round.
But I was wanting him to pick up an. I was wanting him to pick up something more in that second spot, in that second, third spot. There were a lot of guys that were available that for me were going to be a lot more valuable on the Lions team than Mr. Achilles Hill, who we haven't seen yet.
Fingers crossed that Josh Paschal, who made his debut today, fingers crossed he stays healthy and the 2nd round curse will be broken. Maybe he'll play for the rest of the year. But hey, we have 3 minutes left. Who's your balled out candidate for the day?
Okay, so I can't. The one who I balled out, I think that balled out today. I had 3 guys on my mind. I got to give props to Akuda for the great showing, but I didn't give him the win. My runner up is going to be in my best impression of my late husband, Jim, Brock Wright. Okay. He doesn't get much credit. We haven't really seen him. I gotta give my runners up. He doesn't get much attention. He really played a great game. I'm gonna give him that. My winner, my game ball, is going to go to the man who actually did something on this team. Kicker, Michael Bagley. I'm going to show my bias. Use a Bears throwaway. Oh, I'm showing my bias, but yes, Mike Bagley.
That is a good answer. Kickers are important, despite what Brad Holmes thinks. So, yep, I'm going with Akuda. 12. He had 15 tackles. 12 of them were solo. He had 1 tackle for loss. He drew 2 holding penalties. He had himself a career day today. Yeah, I got Akuda. Who got balled on today? And you could only pick one.
Oh, I was going to say the entire Detroit Lions offense because I can't give it to Goff. I really can't. I really do.
Why not?
Just give it. No, because Goff. Come on. I mean, I could, but I'm not. I'm
giving it to Goff. Goff got balled on.
I'm gonna give it. No. Nope. I got my guy Hawkinson for not showing up whatsoever.
Listen, he only got targeted 5 times. What do you want him to do? Throw the ball to himself? Like, he caught 4 for 5 passes. It's not his fault. He only got thrown the ball 5 times.
Well, do something.
I agree with you, though.
He got thrown the ball 5 times. What did he do with the 5 times he got thrown the ball to?
He averaged almost 10 yards per touch. I mean, he got 48 yards. Listen, I actually totally agree with you, though, because when you have your superstar starters out, guys like him need to step up. He is supposed to be a top 5, top 10 tight end in the league. You need to prove it.
But my NFL game day ball for the entire NFL is going to go to the Washington Commanders tonight.
Yes, commies. That last drive was
beautiful. For the humiliation, we all got to watch Green Bay's humiliation on that Hail Mary, which had me just like this the entire time, like no breath. Like, please don't screw this up, Commanders. Please don't. And it was the most beautiful moment today in NFL history.
Yep.
That was incredibly beautiful to watch. Congratulations, Washington Commanders. Even though you only beat them by 2, hell, that made everybody's day in the NFC North. Congratulations.
Yeah, you said douchey Aaron Rodgers laying on the ground at the end of the last play, just completely unwilling to even pick his head up off the turf. It was so beautiful.
Mwah, kisses and love to you.
Thank you, Washington.
But I want to thank you guys all for watching and then supporting us. I totally appreciate it. Next week, we've got who? The Dolphins?
We got the Dolphins.
Grandizer.
I didn't see it because they're playing right now, but I think Tua came back tonight.
Oh, no. Grandizer is going to be happy with this one. So I'm pretty sure we're going to have eggs and bacon and everything else to, next Sunday night. So, so you guys, hey, the loss was what the loss was. But to be honest, the team did pretty well. So we'll see what they do next week. Okay, guys? Hopefully we actually get, because that's a game I think we can win. So let's see what happens. Until next time, restore your roar, enjoy your week, and we'll see you then.
One pride, baby. See y'all next week.